One question that I definitely want to ask because you've probably been interviewed a lot and been on various podcasts. What's one question that you wish somebody would ask you?
Oh, that's different. That's different. Probably what does family and love look like to you now? Nobody
Oh.
ever asks you that. And I think it's because people don't view me in that way. Like for me, and I'm not trying to get too deep because I don't want to get in that space and then just be like, oh, we got the interview where he, it's like, oh. But
We tend to bring that out in
I
people,
mean, we
just
asked the
so you know. We got a National Geographic photographer to cry in the first 5 minutes. It's fine.
well, listeners, welcome back to another Absolutely Sure No Idea podcast where we talk about our creative endeavors and oftentimes being lost along the way, but celebrating the wins and how we get here and also the support we need. Right now, I'm looking at one of my favorite people. We go by DDM as an artist's name. Manny, if you're a friend. DDM here is a native Baltimore rapper. He is a performer, culture and political commentator, an actor, a personality, and an overall creative force. Has a YouTube series known as the Secretary of Shade, has recorded albums such as Beautiful Gowns, Battle of Omar, Stop My Bag, and many other singles, and does speaking engagements on panels, hosts events, holds court at balls, has an ever-changing, amazing, infamous nail set, and is a big fashion connoisseur. Did I miss anything?
no, that's pretty much it.
I love that that was pretty much it, but also, like, you do all the things.
He's like, there could be more. So the first time I ever met DDM was I was in a project called Double Duchess. As some of you know, Double Duchess came and played Golden West. I remember it because Piper tagged me in a post about the Golden West saying like, hey, shout out your favorite times. And it was very appropriate because we were about to do this podcast. And I was like, oh my God, that's the first time I ever met DDM. We've stayed in touch ever since. You've come out to California. We spent our first time in San Francisco together with you. And I didn't notice at the time, but you had gotten a lot of your start in battles, deemed as a Butch Queen Biggie Smalls, which I kind of still live for. Tell me, when did that start for you? Like year, age?
That was like probably the mid 2000s, like yeah, like around 2005 or so, 2000, yeah, 2004, 2005. I did my first talent showcase at the Latin Palace, which rest in peace to the Latin Palace. It's not even here anymore in Baltimore. And then honestly, I started doing battles just as a way to get noticed. It wasn't something that I was like doing because I wanted to be this spectacular battle rapper. I did it because at that time, that was a very lucrative way to get noticed and to build a name and a following and, kind of get yourself out there. So I did it out of necessity, not necessarily because that was what I was aiming to do with the rest of my musical journey, so to speak.
On that note, because that's something a lot of creative people do. It's like, oh, I have this pathway to build an audience, to create a name for myself, but I have other ideas of what I actually want to be doing creatively. What were some of those ideas for you, even as you're entering rap battles? I'm here, but really I'm trying to get here. What were some of those ideas?
My way that I view entertainment was always bigger than my actual budget or things that I had available. Anybody who knows me knows that I've always saw the end goal, but I didn't necessarily know all of the steps to get to that. A lot of stuff you learn from trial by fire, as most creatives do. But coming from a city that is not a entertainment hub, yes, we have strong entertainers from here. We have a lot of great entertainers, but particularly for hip hop, for pop, for things like that. It's no infrastructure for that. A lot of the times I would see these really grandiose things or I would have these brilliant ideas, but in the beginning, people couldn't wrap their heads around it because at the end of the day, Baltimore, Maryland is a blue collar state. It's a very blue collar union worker kind of city. We're not designed to believe in celebrity and things like that, or manufacture. That's not what we manufacture. This is a state that manufactures doctors, lawyers, corrections officers, skilled tradesmen, people that work in ports and things like that. So I had these ideas, but they just seem far fetched to a lot of people. And I think as a result, when I should have maybe moved to different places, I kind of dug my heels in and said, hey, I really want to make this place the place and I want to make it from here, which may or may not have been a smart thing to do, but it's the thing I did.
Well, I
Mhm.
love what you were saying about I knew where I wanted to go. Like I had the vision, I just didn't know the steps to get there. It can be challenging,
Mhm.
especially in an environment that doesn't necessarily support that kind of vision creation, let alone attainment, versus a place like LA or New York where everybody dreams big and lots of people are taking those steps. And so it feels really normal to be the
Mhm.
person doing that too.
I think what's interesting too is even if we do find the people that want to fund us, it's also about are they really funding what we really want to do? Right. And so there's this element of maybe needing to feel like we have to compromise or fit in a certain box. What I've always really admired about you and what a lot of people might not know about you is that you have been working for a very long time and you have also self-funded many of your projects and productions because at first they may not have been productions, but they are productions now, ladies and gentlemen. So please make sure you go. How do you think that has changed the view that you had that you couldn't put together in 2005 versus now?
Well, working at a publicly traded utility, hint, hint, it has been it's a reality for me. I've always said whoever cuts the check sets the deck. A lot of artists get mad when they get funding and then the funder says I want XYZ or you have to operate within these parameters. The reality is the funder is not wrong unless there is explicit terms in the contract that hey, I get to do whatever I want to do. Like in Hollywood, they have some directors have final cut in their contract. Unless you have those things, when you're coming with hat in hand, you're going to have to deal with whatever they give you to a certain extent. Now, you can either agree not to do that and move on your merry way, or if you agree to do that, you have to understand that this is a business and no business is a sure thing. And the way that these people are looking at you, you are a business investment. And the reality is they're probably going to lose more money than they gain on you. And they're probably going to be lucky if they even break even. That's just the entertainment business. And any artist who thinks otherwise or feels entitled that people
Mhm.
should lose money on their business is sorely kidding themselves and not in tune with the realities of what it takes to make these things happen. I mean, you got to think about it. You look at athletics, there's so many kids who go to college level ball. And only a very small percentage of them are going to make it to the NFL. And then the ones that actually make it to the NFL, only a even smaller percentage of that are going to become Lamar Jackson level. You have to be real with that. And so with me, in certain ways, I did not want to compromise. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. Now, in doing what you want to do, when it's right, we did it. When it's wrong, you did it. And you have to understand that. Okay.
Right.
And so the
Mhm.
reality is this for every project I put out, I think probably Beautiful Gowns is my most lucrative one. That's the one that keeps me booked. That's the one that I probably made the most money off of. That's the one that keeps me in the arena. All of these other projects that were personal interests of mine, they make me no money because
Mhm.
the public did not want to hear that from me. The
Mm.
public wanted to hear a bright, vibrant cartoon character. That's what I'm selling. Does that as a person make me feel good? No, not all the time because as people, we are three-dimensional and multi-layered. But when you are putting yourself out as a product, that's a different story. I had a conversation earlier today with a colleague of mine who does film. We were talking and I said to her, Julia, art is for the person. Fame is for the public. The art, you can make that for you and be as selfish as you want to. But if you are seeking fame, that is completely in the hands of the public. If the public does not deem you worthy of fame, you will never get it. No matter how great you think your piece is, no matter how much you think this should go, the public, which is who you are ultimately seeking approval from, because in being famous, that means that you are held higher in the court of public opinion. So you have to accept that maybe the public just don't feel that you are fame worthy. And that's okay. You can work
Mhm.
towards that. You can promote yourself into the public consciousness to a certain level, but either they like you or you don't. And you have to deal with that.
You said something that was really interesting about the cartoon character from that album that people really loved, and that's why it was so successful for you. And then with the fame piece, I think that's where a lot of artists and creatives in general get tripped up. They don't necessarily understand you as the public persona is not you as the person. It is a product that you are selling and it is crafted. You can use your creative talents to craft it, or you can let the public craft it for you based on what they want. And in a lot of cases, it's a little bit of both. And so many people get their identity wrapped up in that, and they don't know how to take care of themselves as the person to really differentiate that. They're seeking that validation and making it mean something about themselves instead of that distinction. When did that become a light bulb moment for you? Because it sounds like you've had it.
I think it became a light bulb moment when people stopped listening to my music. I
Mm.
think
Mm.
the reality is, yes, people still listen to my music, but the records that did well to me are a certain kind. Nobody wanted to hear about my backstory, at least not the way that I executed it. Nobody wanted to hear about real hip hop for me anymore. They wanted to hear uplifting messages. They wanted to hear fun. They wanted to hear dancing. I had to understand the product that I was pushing and the person that I was becoming. The person that I was becoming grew tired of that. The
Yeah.
person that I was becoming had more to say, more depth, and realized how three-dimensional of a person I really am. That can be very self-indulgent, but that's a very lonely process. You have to continue to elevate and you have to continue to up your game. This is where the financing piece comes into play. Because, see, it's only so much you can do on an indie level by yourself. And once you reach that artistically and what you can creatively put into the world, people are going to want to expect an upgrade. And that upgrade costs money. And if you
Mhm.
don't have the financing to deliver that upgrade, I could have all of the great ideas in the world, which I do. And I oftentimes watch them play out on television with other people. And I
Mhm.
don't get upset about that because they had the money, they had the vision, and they had everything in place to get that done. Either I could choose to be upset about that and be like, oh my God, I did this first. Nobody gives a shit at the end of the day.
It's true.
Nobody cares. So you have to be very cognizant of that.
You once told me that you feel like you use social media as your diary. Was there a conscious motivation for that? Does that feel intentional? Does that feel like who you are, or is that more of the personality?
I think that's the one place what I love about social media and what I've learned from it, and I don't let social media rule me.
Mhm.
Sometimes I say things that are not popular. More times than not, I say things that are very popular and everybody's thinking. But but
It's true. I love your Instagram so much.
True Sagittarius in that
Yeah.
moment, let's be honest.
Yes.
but with social media, I like it because I get to be who I am without filter. Of course, you're in a public square, so you have to be ready for pushback. But I think the secret to my social media is people understand that I am a nice person. I am very aware of the human condition, but with certain things, I just don't care. I have a rule. I do not go back and forth with people on social media. If you get one comment from me, consider that a gift because I don't do that. I said what I said, very Nene Leaks. I said what I said. If you don't like it, you can delete, unfriend, unsubscribe. You can do whatever. It's a free country as of today. But I'm not going to argue with anybody. And with social media, sometimes it is very much a diary, but I think my social media is helpful because it is the voice of a person who is not overly polished. I think the issue now with social media is that everything is so curated
Mhm.
and influencers feel like product placements now. The original influencers were people who were not regulated, who were not bought. These were people who they just had to like you in order for you to get over with them. It wasn't as simple as send me $5,000 and I'm going to talk about erectile dysfunction pills on my feed out of nowhere.
You're like bug spray one day and erectile dysfunction the next day. What's happening here?
Like even when
Really.
when I started Secretary of Shade, and I have fought viral fame several times. I could have went a whole different path with Secretary of Shade, but I felt like it was moving so fast and people were asking for things that just didn't make sense to me. I'm never going to lose myself. I'm just not that type of person. I can't be purchased. That's the thing that people like about me. That's why even if I'm not putting out content every day or every week, people hold on to what I say because they know this is a person who is not purchased. He is not influenced by what trend is going on. When I did Secretary of Shade, I had people asking to pay me to read their books online. I'm not doing it because I don't like your book. I think your book is boring. It does not interest me. I look at the cover, I'm not intrigued. I look at the synopsis. Here's another memoir about somebody in the White House who should have did way more about it. I'm not intrigued. I have to like it. And that's been me when it comes to my records. The best records that I performed that always worked for me, I had to like them. I had to actually feel what I was saying. Yes, I can write television and cartoon jingles. I can do that because it's cute. It's a creative assignment. It's not going to be me singing it most of the time. But for me to do it, for me to read it, for me to act it, for me to sing it, rap it, whatever, I have to believe in it and I have to like it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is that how Secretary of Shade came to be? Feeling like you needed a different avenue from the music that you were creating to funnel your thoughts about it? Tell me if I got this right. From the episodes I've listened to of Secretary of Shade, it does sound like it's, political and social and pop culture commentary through your lens. Was that the next evolution for expression of the things that you like and what you had to say?
It was a happy accident. I
Mm.
literally was at work when Omarosa's book was getting ready to come out, and it was all over the news cycle. I was like, "Girl, I'm gonna get this book." I went down to Barnes and Noble and got a copy of the book. I got home, I went on Facebook Live, and I just read it and was cracking up. And
Were
I
you
went to
like
sleep.
reading it out
Yeah,
loud?
yeah. I remember when it
Oh, I
happened.
have
Yeah,
to listen to that.
I was reading it, just cracking up. Maybe 20 people were watching. I was like, "Oh, that was cute." I closed the book, logged off, watched my TV shows. Woke up the next morning and 100,000 people had watched that,
On
had
Facebook.
had watched it, and before you know it, I'm getting invited to The Hill. I'm doing interviews. They playing segments of my readings on PGC. Omarosa came down to Baltimore and interviewed with me. I'm meeting April Ryan. I'm getting invited to Democratic functions and all of that stuff. And so that wasn't nothing that I set and I was like, I'm going to do this. I think the lesson that I learned from Secretary of Shade, and every time I defy this lesson, it doesn't work for me, is I have to do what I want to do. I cannot do things with an intention. I can't do it like that. God doesn't allow me to work like that. I have to do it. I really am so divinely inspired and
Mm,
I get shown my pathways. I don't create them. So I have something happening right now that is not something I thought about. It's something I ignored. It's just, something that I just was not even interested in. And an opportunity has presented itself. And I'm like, okay, cute. It's actually going to happen. And I'm like, okay, let me get this together and see what happens. That's how I work. When I sit and try to do all this planning and we're going to do this rollout, now, yes, I do planning to a certain degree once the opportunity has crystallized. I don't want to make it seem like I'm just this airhead floating around.
It's just like, maybe I'll do this today or maybe that.
But, you know, but my steps are divinely ordered and I have to follow that. When I disobey those signs and my intuition, when it's not successful, it's because I didn't listen to myself.
Mm.
That's a good lesson.
The word that is coming to mind is trust. Your ability to trust your intuition and know that's what you're meant to do right now, so to speak, I think is powerful. When I think of trust too, I also think of my relationship to Secretary of Shade because I never watched the news. I've never been that girl, wasn't on in my house. But Secretary Shade was delivering it in a way that I could digest it because I'm one of those people where it's like if I read something and I'm bored, my eyes have done rolled over 8 million times. I do not know what's going on. So I would literally wait until you're done and then you would be like, okay, so basically this what happened. I was like, thank God. And it, because that was your thing. You would read the whole thing and you'd be like, okay, basically this what happened. Because then I felt like I was talking to my friend, but like I was having an intimate conversation with you of somebody who really knew what was going on. And also I trusted that it would be factual because you are a very honest man and you are very fair. But I also knew that we were pretty aligned in a lot of things. It's not that I needed somebody to be aligned with the news that I get, but there was a willingness to listen a little bit. Because I had a personal relationship, which I know is different than everyone who watches the news for the most part. That started because you accidentally read the book online, right? The motivation for getting that show together, how is that different than the motivation for the show for you right now, giving our political change?
I feel like if I'm being honest, I did it and I said, let's see how far this goes. If people continue to watch, if they don't, I'll move on. Doesn't mean I'm not going to still be aware because I grew up in a house. My mom, God rest her soul, she watched the news every day, literally every day, 6 o'clock, 5 to 6:30. Then world news at 6:30 to 7. And then on the weekends, meet the press and CBS this morning. I just grew up in a house like that. My mother got a physical paper every Sunday. I was very aware of the world that I lived in, especially from a geopolitical and global standpoint. In those early years of SOS, I started SOS in 2018. I can't believe that was 7 years ago. In those early years of SOS, I treated the audience like friends. And I think that I have so many people who say, you got me through the pandemic, or I feel like I know you. Like, I literally have people, I'm in a supermarket, and I have people come up to the supermarket and talk to me about my life and ask me, how's my mom? And I'm like, I've never met her a day in my life. And they're like, so did you do XYZ? And how's your brother doing? Is he okay? Because I know the funeral.
You're like,
I
who
know it was
are
a lot.
you?
And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of crazy.
Baltimore is a small town.
It is. It's a small town masquerading as a big city. Now, fast forward to where we are now. Part of me is a little salty because I felt like I did a lot of work to get people in the country on what I feel like should be the right side of things. And it didn't pan out that way. Now, is that my fault totally? Absolutely not, right? I know that. It just kind of disheartened me because I always believed that humanity would trump anything, no pun intended, but it hasn't. And in fact, the human condition, in my opinion, particularly in this country, has gotten worse. What is interesting about society, particularly Western society, specifically in America, is that Americans will recognize that they've done a wrong. And instead of saying, let's not do this wrong again, let's apologize for this wrong, let's fix it so we can move forward, because they're embarrassed, they will dig their heels into the wrong, justify the wrong, and legislate the wrong, and, legalize the wrong. And so after seeing what's been transpiring, from just from a reading the tea leaves standpoint, might have to take a step back a little bit because I did what I was supposed to do. It's beyond talking heads. It's beyond pundits. It's beyond a good laugh on Stephen Colbert. It's real life now. you had a chance to laugh it away and to vote it away, and the general public chose not to. Sometimes with SOS, I'll do community meetings
Mm.
where we just talk about things as a community. And that I will still do because I have people who have followed me for years who are good people. And I find that those things really help people. SOS was never about reporting the news. If
Yeah.
you want the news is available. What people came to me for was perspective, a good laugh, everything's going to be all right. Look out for yourself, and community. That's what they came to me for. People that do the news 25 times better than me. That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And like even the way I program my Instagram, my Insta stories are a mixture of Americana, vintage pop culture, the future, and news. And
Hmm.
it's carefully curated that way.
Yeah, it feels like it without it being pretentious. Like, it is just very you and your very human accessible vibe, which is probably why people come up to you at the grocery store and talk to you about your family. Yeah.
Sure. They're like, well, I know who I'm probably going to get. You just kind of are who you are, which I've always appreciated that about you. And I also appreciate your service. I just need to say that out loud because I feel like at some point Secretary of State was a service for people, whether they recognize it as that or not. Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like wrestling needs to enter the chat here at some point.
It does. That's so, like, uniquely you, Emmanuel.
Because okay, let me just tell you, DDM has a vast range of musical knowledge, deep jazz to funk and soul to different rock. It is endless. You'll often reference those things when you're talking about seeing a visual and you're like, oh yeah, I could see this and it could sound like this. And it's very inspiring to me. And so cut to us watching The Iron Claw together. We went and saw that movie. DDM was so patient with me because he quickly knew how much I did not know about the story about the brothers, the Von Erichs. Because I was like, what's going to happen? He's like, oh, you don't even know the story. And I was like, I don't. But it was a fun experience nonetheless. There was that Rush song. So he like went on a Rush tangent for like a couple weeks after that. Just like he's always so inspired and really goes down the rabbit hole. But I feel like even before then, because you were talking about the bigger sort of cartoon personality, to me, that's similar to wrestling in a lot of ways. There is this exaggerated version of the person. And so as I hear you being like, people don't really want me to do that, but I'm also like, you kind of do that in your own way. Like, what does wrestling do for you in that sense, as far as your personal presentation goes?
Sports entertainment. I always tell people wrestling is Broadway with stunts. It is
100%.
theater. The acrobatics and the athletics are very real, but it's theater. And is an avatar for these people. And I like the spectacle of it. I love the lights. I love the stage production. I love the choreographed dance of this fight and the cinema that comes with it. The costumes, a different costume every week. It's a pay-per-view. So now we have to have the mask. It is the world's best sitcom, soap opera, and drag show all at once. It is everything about being an artist. It is everything about being competitive. It is Americana. Vince McMahon has a lot of areas of opportunity, but that man revolutionized that sport, which was kind of a dying sport at the time that he bought his father's company. Very vaudeville, very draconian in its approach. And he transformed it into this ecosystem of masculine yet homoerotic make believe.
Yes. Nailed it.
1000%. Yes.
There's a book called Margot's Got Money Troubles that's basically about this girl, teen pregnancy, but her dad was a retired pro wrestler. And he teaches her how to bring theater into her OnlyFans account so she can fund having this baby. It's amazing.
Oh my
It's such a
gosh.
great book.
That is a synopsis. I would have been like, I'm fully reading this.
Totally. Put that in your nightstand. But you're right. I
Okay.
mean, that's such an apt description of wrestling. And so tell us a little bit about how you decided to bring that into your own work?
Well, I did a whole wrestling EP called Gold Dust, inspired by Dustin Rhodes' character. I just wanted to write snapshots of a wrestler's life. You have the prestige that everybody sees, and then you have songs like The Ballad of Luna and Sherry that talks about how women wrestlers in the 80s were treated, in the 90s were treated. You had a 5-year career, 5 to 6 years, and then it's over because you're getting old. Then you have records, like Dark Divas that talks about the experience of black women in wrestling. And then you have songs like Monday Night Raw that's incredibly raw and it's very sexual. It's my version of Lil Kim's dreams about all of the men's wrestlers that I like. Because I ain't gonna lie to you, wrestling has definitely influenced my aesthetic. I was always a bombastic kind of visual person, but I think wrestling has really helped me enhance that.
Mhm.
I love wrestling. Like I love lady wrestling. Female wrestling is my favorite. Like honestly, the women's storylines, the women's matches are my favorite. I'm a huge advocate for women's wrestling. I do a podcast, Black Wrestling Podcast, with 4 of my friends. They know I have husbands, so there's certain wrestlers like it's a tier. Like if I
Right.
say you're my husband, that means like we looking at people like Drew McIntyre, Oba Femi, or Randy Orton. Then you have my boyfriend, my baby father, Mike Santana, Ricky
Uh-huh.
Stump. Like there's levels to that. Like you're not just gonna be husband level.
You gotta
Drew
work your
McIntyre
way up.
husband level, okay?
Mhm.
I do watch wrestling. I ain't gonna lie to you. I watch wrestling for the men. It's so crazy because like the history of wrestling is so gay. Like the Royal Rumble, one of the biggest wrestling events every year, was created by a gay man.
Of
Patterson
course.
created the Royal Rumble. The
Man.
first intercontinental champion is a gay man, Pat Patterson. A lot of the storylines were Pat Patterson, which Pat got his own problems, rest his soul. So it's very interesting to see. You have a lot of wrestlers behind the scenes who are LGBTQ people. They'll never tell you. They'll never own up to it, especially back in the 80s and 90s. There was a lot of good times in them locker rooms back in the day. When you look at even from a female perspective, lesbians have always had a huge influence on the business. It's crazy because I think what wrestling also does is it is an interesting visual display of what gender looks like and feels like. When you look at somebody like China, you think butch, muscle, lesbian, and she was far from that. She
Yeah.
was
Feminine.
dainty, feminine. You have people like Adrian Adonis, who was not like his presentation at all. He has this glamorous thing, but he was not that guy. You look at Dustin Rhodes, Gold Dust, married, but that persona is androgynous, non-binary. It's so funny. I was talking to you. I was on a plane flying back. I think was it WrestleMania Los Angeles a couple years ago, and I was on a plane on a flight next to one of the announcers for Dustin Rhodes Wrestling School, and we were talking. I said, I wonder if Dustin knows how iconic and influential the Gold Dust character is in LGBTQ circles, and especially in wrestling LGBTQ circles. And he goes, Dustin knows. See the kids come to the school because of Dustin, and Dustin had good relationships with one of the trans wrestlers, but Dustin is a straight man with a wife and kids. He's very much that. And from the South, from Atlanta, Georgia. And so it just turns so much stuff on its head because you
Yeah.
got this white man from the South whose father is one of the most iconic personalities in wrestling, Dustin Rhodes Sr., who creates a character. And the interesting thing about the Gold Dust character is that he was willing to get breast implants for the Gold Dust character. And Vince told him, hold on, Holiday.
Like, are you sure you wanna do that? Let's slow down.
They got so far, but he had actually proposed Gold Dust being non binary. They didn't have the words for it in the 90s, he was going to get implants for Gold Dust.
I
I
never
never
knew
knew
that.
that. Same.
Totally. I feel like
Same.
I'm like so into learning more about wrestling now after this conversation.
Seriously.
I mean, this could be a whole podcast episode. You maybe do this on your wrestling podcast of just the genderedness of it, and yet so much behind the scenes. And
It's like that. Like even Mae Young, who's gorgeous woman, she passed away. She was wrestling with Babs Wingo and I'm back in like what was that, the 50s, 60s, somewhere around there. But Mae Young was an open lesbian and was gorgeous and was out with a like it's a scene in this movie, Queen of the Ring, and she's talking to one of the promoters. She told him, it's not right that you're doing Mildred like that. Mildred Burke, who's another iconic female wrestler at the time. It's not right that you're doing Mildred like that. You're having these different women. And he told her, you have a different woman in your dressing room every night. Nobody says nothing. And I,
Ooh.
touche.
what is so interesting is that in this time, we are obsessed with identification. Identification is important to identify resources and to make sure that people are supported in the way that they need to. However, we've become so obsessed with identification that are we truly living the lives that we're identifying for? And when I look at people like Mae Young, when I look at people like Dustin Rhodes Jr., when I look at Luna Vachon and Adrian Adonis, they lived in a rougher time and they made it work. That to me is the power of sports entertainment. It hides behind the ostentatiousness of itself because these people come out in makeup and spandex and huge robes and masks. That is an armor and a cover for American life. And the messiness of it. My friend Fammy said wrestling is a mirror of America. He said wrestling exaggerates what's going on in the world. When you look at wrestling in the 80s, Nikita Koloff, all of those different, heels in wrestling were the people that United States were enemies of the United
Right.
States. And
Yeah.
Villains, real
Hulk
villains.
Hogan and all of those guys were the all-American
Pro
heroes,
America.
blonde
Yeah.
hair, blue eye, those
Mhm.
things. When you look at Razor Ramon is from Southern Maryland, yet his gimmick was a Cuban in Miami. And he did it so well that he would go to Miami and people would talk to him in Spanish and couldn't understand
He's
it.
like, I'm from
And they,
Maryland, y'all.
right, but his look, Razor Ramon, who is one of the most iconic wrestling personalities, they're still making merch for Razor Ramon, WWE, to sell, is from Southern Maryland, Hagerstown, Waldorf, Leonardtown, that whole area. He's from there. They produced one of the most iconic wrestling personalities in history.
Mm,
You seemed like somebody that loves learning and loves, like, when you get into something, going down the rabbit hole, like really learning all of the things. This form, this sports entertainment is all of the things that spark creativity, curiosity, and yeah, like getting to understand the history of it, how wrestling is a mirror for what's happening culturally in America through the decades. So fascinating.
I was curious because I know you had recently did a battle that had some wrestling themes and undertones as far as selling it. Very genius, very on brand. How did you feel about, was there any reflection? And if not, maybe how do you feel like around starting out from what you talked about, starting out in 2005 to 20 years later, being the one throwing the battle for some of these young rappers? How did you feel to provide that?
It was really just me sharing knowledge and what I think elevation of a platform looks like. That's not always going to be received well. And what I've learned is that you got to let people learn. As much as you want to say, hey, you should do it like this, you got to let people fail. You got to allow yourself to fail. Looking back, is there certain things that I should have done differently? Absolutely. But as it pertains to people now, the kids now, they're going to do what they want to do. And that's one thing I learned about people. People going to do what they want to do. And you got to allow them to do what they want to do. And You may think what they want to do is a recipe for disaster, but that's none of your business. That ain't got nothing to do with you. I'm not going to be the person dying in a horror film trying to save somebody that I told to leave. I'm gonna be the person,
You'll be the first person out the door.
I'm not going to be the person, you know, out there doing a protest that don't make sense. It's got to make sense to me. Just to go back to Secretary of Shade for a little bit, like I told them when the election results hit, please don't ask me to come march with you. Your time to march was November 5th. Please don't ask me to sign or give me. I was so annoyed. They kept getting texts and Democrats. We need funding for that. No, you don't.
Mm-mm.
You don't need funding for that. Don't ask me to come out that whole King's Day. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. I'm like, honey, this is a highly select pep rally. And people was like, well, if you don't have anything positive to say, what are you doing? I said, you ding dongs don't read history books. And pretty soon you're not going to be able to anyway, because the damage has already been done. Right now, you're not doing anything but putting yourself on a watch list and facial recognition to be identified for a future pickup.
Your statement,
That
yeah.
time is come and gone.
Yeah. Like, I'm just so in awe of all of the different directions that you've gone based on the things that you really care about and the things that you want to say, either for creation's sake or because it's something that you believe in.
Oh, my mother just visited. She told me it's gonna be okay. She restores her faith in man. And that's the thing, like my mom passed and she comes and visits me in the most strange times. Like she just visited me on this podcast and said, because I have a very morbid I have very morbid thoughts dealing with anxiety, which a lot of people don't know that I deal with. I automatically assume the worst all the time, which also helps me because my spirit of discernment is very high. I may not be able to tell you right then and there why I don't like this person. They may not have even done anything to me, but my intuition tells me that they're going to do something. 99.9% of the time, I am right. I think that we all need that. I had a meltdown Saturday because I use a retainer because I grind my teeth at night. Oh my God, I'm giving all my medicals. And
I mean,
I
same.
lost.
I wear the thing too.
Yeah, I know the retainer, girl. I know it. I seen
We're
it.
all doing it.
And I lost, which they said, statistically, COVID, the use of teeth grinders at night went through the roof during COVID. The pandemic put so many people in society on edge that teeth grinding became a phenomena.
Whoa. I mean, I think mine was just too much MDMA in the 90s, but
It probably was, Piper. But that was
probably
but that was mine too.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
the amount of people that even understood what the word anxiety actually meant after COVID. Mental health skyrocketed because people were actually talking about it because everybody collectively felt it at the same time.
And then it was normalized, so it was okay to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like
Feel
everybody's
the
talking
feels.
about it because everybody's trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with them.
They're like, I just need a retainer. Like,
Right. I'm grinding. You're like, we're grinding because of anxiety, sweetie. That's what it's called.
And it's crazy because like I do it throughout the day. I had to go see an anxiety therapist because I kept going to the hospital. Like I'm a hypochondriac. Because my mother died from a stroke, every time I get a migraine, which I'm prone to get them migraines and cluster headaches, I'm in the hospital. If like I got heartburn, which I've changed my diet and stuff, but when them things start happening, I will literally just go and stand in front of the hospital until I'm okay. Sometimes I won't go in because I don't want the bill.
just being
Yeah,
in
The
proximity,
osmosis
I
of
feel better.
wellness. Right.
like literally, it's funny now, but it's been several times where I'm not too far from University of Maryland Hospital, where I will go in there and be like, oh my God, my chest hurt. I got a migraine. What's going on? And I will go and sit by the emergency room for 3-4 hours, listen to music. I may even turn on a show. But I had to learn that. And like I went to an anxiety therapist that specializes in health anxiety. And it was really good. He was definitely a clock watcher. But here's the thing, and this is what I tell people, because I don't believe in being a damsel in distress. I said, I'm going to get what I need from this man. Even though I know that I'm just another patient on his register. And I know he's just checking the boxes. He is giving me things to do that will help me. So I have to use the tools and I can't be concerned with the messenger.
For
right?
sure.
Even though
Yeah.
Mhm.
reading is so important in therapy, but then I had to realize, what kind of therapy am I going to him for? I'm going to him for anxiety therapy treatment. I'm not going to him for life coaching. I'm not going to him for emotional distress. I am going to him get help on how to manage anxiety and calm myself down. When I separated the two, I was like, this good insurance is paying for it. I'm going to do these 10 sessions, get from it what I need, and then I'll talk to the social worker who is not even my therapist, but might as well be. And I'll get what I need from him in that capacity. And
Mhm.
so I'm a survivor. And I always think about life in terms of survival mode. If you disregard gems just because you didn't like the messenger or just because it wasn't exactly what you wanted to be, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. I look at life like a video game. Some stages are absolutely boring, but there's 2 extra lives in that corner over
Right.
there if you just go through those bricks. So
Sure, you
that's
gotta
that's
store up
how
that
that's how I
energy.
look at it.
You gotta store
Yeah.
up that energy. I
Look at
love
life
it.
like the video game for sure. Can we get a little hint as to this new project, new direction you're working on?
I really don't know. I honestly don't really have a blueprint as to what is next for me. I just don't. And, I have a lot of music recorded. Yes, I do. But it's such a vast swatch of sounds and perspectives and eras that, and this is something I've always struggled with. How does one put that into a pretty package for public consumption? And the answer is I can't. To keep it real, I may not even do promo for the project. I may just put it up on the streaming services and say, take from it what you will. You
Mhm.
know, now I have an opportunity to visually execute one of these songs that was presented to me. Do I have ideas? I'm never without an idea. I'm never without execution. I'm never without,
Very
a
true.
point of view. But
Mhm.
the question now becomes, Emmanuel, do you want to spend the money on that?
Mhm.
Do you want to put the time into something that people are going to maybe listen to for 3 to 5 minutes and move on to the next thing? Is the juice worth the squeeze? That is where I'm at right now.
Especially if you're
You know,
self-funding it, because that's a squeeze.
yeah,
Hi.
I think about some of the money that I spent on these projects. I could have went to Italy 5 times over. I could have went on 20 cruises. There's other things. I could be applying for citizenship somewhere else.
Mhm.
There's plenty of things
You bought
that
the
I could
villa in Italy.
right.
That
You
part.
know, there's so many things I could be doing with my resources that I work very hard to attain. Then that comes to question, are you doing it for you or are you doing it for fame? If I'm doing it for me, I've done it for me. I've made the product. Now, part of doing it for me is doing the visual. Do I want to make a movie for myself? Do I want to make a rollout for myself and be okay with just me liking it when I put it
Mm.
out for public consumption? Right now, I'm more interested in writing a book. It all depends.
It all
Hmm.
depends where that divine inspiration hits you.
Yeah.
I also wanna be mindful of your time too. So, you've probably been interviewed a lot and been on various podcasts. What's one question that you wish somebody would ask you?
Oh, that's different. That's different. Probably, what does family and love look like to you now? Nobody
Oh.
ever asks you that. And I think it's because people don't view me in that way. And I'm not trying to get too deep because I don't want to get in that space and then just be like, oh, we got the interview where he, it's like, "Oh." But
We tend to bring that out in
I
people,
mean, we
just
asked the
so you know. We got a National Geographic photographer to cry in the first 5 minutes. It's fine.
yeah, what does love look like? It's so interesting because my mom passed in June and we buried her in July. I have been very, like, people are waiting for this grand moment for me to lose it. And I'm sure it's going to come eventually. But I've had the hardest time sleeping regularly ever since her passing. And last night I had a hookup come over. And he stayed with me to the morning, which is something I typically don't allow and that hookups just don't do with me. People tell you who they are when they're sleeping. We hugged and he let me sleep on his chest, and I moved the pillow from behind him, and he automatically turned, grabbed and pulled me closer, hugged me. I did not realize how much I needed that. Like, I'm gonna be very honest with you. I don't have an extensive history on this man. It's a hookup, honey. We met on the apps.
As one
But,
does.
Imma just keep it a buck. But just the way that he felt and the way that he held my hand, we did this the way he held my hand was just so necessary, and I think my mom sent them to me. I really do. As tawdry as it is, and, that's the thing I think about since my mom has passed. I'm like, "Oh my god, she totally knows all the scandalous, crazy shit that I have been doing," and she, like, can see everything, like, "Oh my god, and I promise you, mom, I'm not a whore!" Uh, uh, but I take comfort in, know that she also knows that sometimes I've done things out of pain and out
Yeah.
of wanting, and she gets that.
Yeah.
So I think he was sent to me. It was so because people for some reason don't think that I require stuff like that. They don't think I need
Yeah.
stuff like that because I'm always the strong person, the friend that has it together. I needed that moment real bad, and he
Oh.
gave it to me. He was like, "Let me know when you want me to leave." I said, "No, you fine."
Mm,
Well, and how amazing that you allowed yourself to be soft and vulnerable in that way and receive what you needed,
mhm.
because you could have said, "Okay, you can go," and you didn't.
Diane said, "Let that man stay. Can you just
Yeah,
please let him stay?
Yeah.
yeah. It
Because
was
she
it
know
was
you needed
very
it."
it was very much that. I think this is the most honest I've ever been because a lot of times, especially in LGBTQ circles, because of the shame associated with who we are in public image, we often either embellish, fabricate how we meet our companions, our lovers, our sex partners, love interests. We edit that. And I don't feel the need to edit anything anymore when it comes to stuff like that.
I've loved getting to hear your stories behind the scenes of the stories that I do know of you and like public life, but it's just so much different when you get to have like a real conversation with somebody and really understand the reasons, the whys, and how that has informed a lot of the way that you look at life.
And you just gotta do you, right? Know yourself. The more you know yourself, the more you'll be steering yourself in the right direction, or at least, even if it's not the right direction, then you're at least not gonna be mad that somebody else made you steer you in the wrong direction, right?
That's truth.
So,
That
which
is
which
the
is huge.
truth.
It's one
Yeah.
thing to make a mistake. It's one thing to make somebody else's mistake. Okay.
Right.
DDM, I love you to pieces. I really thank you for joining us, and I will be seeing you soon. And that's a wrap.
We'll have to see each other in real life in Baltimore for
Yes.
sure.
Yes, we
Yeah.
will have a key for
Absolutely.
sure. Hey there. Thanks for listening, and we hope you're feeling more curious and inspired to make a step towards your passion. To keep you connected, take a second to follow us on Instagram at Absolutely Sure No Idea, and follow us on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts for upcoming episodes. Lastly, help us grow this baby by sharing an episode with a friend who needs to hear it. All right, until next time.